Hello there and welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be reviewing Captain America the First Avenger. So, let's get into it. So, what did I think of this film? I really loved it. Now, this was the first MCU film that I saw in the cinema, and it is probably in my top 5 MCU films. I love Chris Evans as Captain America. It's such a perfect casting for the role, and I think they cast him really well. And another highlight of this film is Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter, one of the founding members of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think the dynamic between those two is absolutely amazing. You can definitely tell that they're sort of very suited to each other. I love sort of like the friendly banter that goes on between them throughout the film. I think that's sort of amazing. And how they did this sort of transformation from like skinny Steve and then like post-serum Steve, I think was amazing. I know they got like a body double, but how they like put the head onto the body, I thought was amazing and still holds up really well today. I also think as well, the makeup for the Red Skull, brilliant again. I would definitely say this is a top 5 MCU film for me. It sets up his story so well, especially like tying it into the wider MCU. Like this film, I feel like you could watch on its own without knowing anything about Captain America, but obviously it links into the wider story of the MCU. Some things I don't like about this film is I don't like how he spends a lot of the time as sort of like how he puts it, a show, like some sort of like show dancing monkey. I don't really like that aspect. I find it a bit boring really, but after he goes to rescue Bucky, which that whole scene is that whole section of the film is amazing anyway, but after he does that, then the film starts to like pick up and get really exciting, but just the build up of that I do find sometimes on like rewatches I find it a bit boring, to be honest. But overall, I think the film's great, as I keep mentioning. And my favourite scene from this film has to be when after he's got his proper shield and he bursts through the doors holding the shield, firing like pistols everywhere. That is probably top 3 scenes in the whole of the MCU. It just looks so cool, what Captain America should be, because before obviously seeing it, Captain America with like, especially in the cartoons, like the Avengers cartoon, didn't really seem like that kind of a cool character like Iron Man or Thor. But after seeing that scene, I like fell in love with this character, fell in love with the comics. And that's because of this film. That's why I started reading Captain America comics as well. So this film really does like have like a lot to answer to, being sort of like making him more sort of like a character that people enjoy and love, and setting up his journey for the next 8 or 9 years of the MCU. Also as well, again, Johann Schmidt as the Red Skull, brilliant acting there. I can't remember the guy who plays him, but I think he's absolutely amazing in this. I love how you don't really see him at all, and you don't see him at all with his sort of like iconic Red Skull thing throughout the whole film. It's not until right at the end where you get to see him have like ripping his skin away, like the actual Red Skull, and I think that's great. You do obviously the scientist. He sees it. I can't remember his name, but he sees it, and like obviously like the look of horror on his face, I think was done brilliantly. Like everyone's acting in this is absolutely on form. And then one thing that I do want to mention as well is how sort of like humble Steve Rogers is when he's not got the serum, how he's such like a good person, like doesn't always stand up for himself, but always wants to do the right thing. And I think you really do see that in the scene at the army training camp thing where he jumps on the grenade for a bunch of soldiers who sometimes are mean to him, don't always sort of like see him as an equal because he doesn't look as physically strong or as tall as them. And for a bunch of soldiers who he doesn't even know, he jumps on the what turns out to be fake grenade. And I think that just sort of shows what type of person he is and why he was fit for the super soldier program, and how even in those early scenes you see his like leadership skills, how he's truly fitted to lead the Avengers in the later Avengers, Age of Ultron, Infinity War and Endgame films. So yeah, this really does lay the groundwork, as it says for the First Avenger, this really does lay the groundwork of what the Avengers would ultimately become. Also as well, highlight for me is Hayley Atwell as Peggy Carter. I know I've touched briefly upon her performance, but one of like top 3 favourite actresses for me. I think her, like the way she sort of changes her behaviour when she first meets Steve, to seeing like more of his character, and then post serum, I think absolutely amazing how like she really, like you can really see like she does fall in love with him, and how sort of disappointed she is when he sees her kissing that War Office lady. I can't remember like what she does, but yeah, you can really see like the anger in her face. And then the scene when she's sort of when she's in that command center talking to Captain America on the intercom communication thing, and he's about to put the ship in the ice. That scene like really tugs at your heartstrings every time I watch it. Like especially when they're talking about going for that dance, and then like it just suddenly like goes to static and cuts off. Like you can really see she's feel like she's lost something, and she just doesn't know what to do. And I think that's like really like not just in her face but in her eyes. And I feel like making a performance through your eyes is really hard to do, and I think she does it absolutely brilliantly. And I've just started watching the Agent Carter show, so I'll probably review that. And her in that is absolutely amazing. I would love for them to do sort of like what they did with Daredevil, maybe, and do a few more series. But that, like, her character is amazing, and I think it's an absolute crime how we haven't had a lot more of her character. I know she's just recently been announced to be cast in Avengers Doomsday. Not sure about Secret Wars though, but I don't know if she's playing Peggy or Captain Britain like she was in Multiverse of Madness. But I just think it's an absolute crime how we haven't had more of Peggy Carter. I think she's one of my favourite characters in the MCU, and I'd just love to see more. Yeah, I love the historical setting of this film, how it's very true to the time, and you get to know him in his life before he gets frozen in the water. I think that was done great as well, and how it links into the wider MCU with Nick Fury showing up at the end, say like with that line, "You've been asleep, Cap, for 70 years," and that scene as well when he wakes up in that sort of fake dummy room thing kind of reminds me of Mission Impossible, kind of, and then he just bursts out the door and he realises it's all fake. That scene I think was brilliant. And then the last line where he goes, "Oh, I had a date," and he just feels like distraught, and like he doesn't know what to do, and obviously explores in like later films such as The Winter Soldier, how like what has happened in that time, what's happened to Peggy, all of his other friends, and I just think Chris Evans captures that sort of like the man out of time aspect of Captain America's character, and also as well we got to see Howard Stark in his sort of like prime and not just a brief cameo like in Iron Man 2. I thought it was great to see Howard, very much sort of, you can tell it's he's Tony's dad. I don't know if the actor sort of took inspiration from Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, but you can definitely tell that they are meant to be father and son. And I think that was done really well. And also the costume, you can see it briefly on the DVD cover there, but I think this is probably the best iteration of the Captain America costume. You've obviously got the stars, the stripes, but I think it, and like then you've got like the holsters on the side there. I think it's the best one because it's sort of like comic book accurate. I love comic book accurate costumes. I think when they've brought literally off the page and onto the screen, I think most of them are done really, really well. And I just love it when that happens. But I think this one is not only comic book accurate, but it's also sort of made it to be more useful, more realistic, and like obviously not bright blue and red and white like it is in the First Avengers film, in Avengers Assemble. But I think this one probably the best because it's sort of like a bit more gritty, a bit more like dirtied up. Yeah, I just love that costume, and I think that cover absolutely amazing. But yeah, love this film so much. Top 5 MCU films for me. Phase 1 in general is just absolutely amazing, which I'm hoping to review over the course of the next few weeks, reviewing all of them, and then yeah, leading up to Spider-Man: A Brand New Day. Let me know if you prefer to watch the MCU in timeline or chronological order. I'd really love to know. Personally, for me, I prefer chronological, but if I'm introducing someone new to the MCU, I would probably choose release order. Yeah, so release order or chronological. Let me know in the comment section down below, and hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.